Hello, this is the Tradesight U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for Wednesday, April 13th, 2016. Hope you had a good trading day. We had a couple of winners here on the stock side. Futures were kind of a wash. It was an interesting day. Light volume again, only it got to 1.6 billion shares by the close, but just barely with some late prints. So still a very light volume session. We'll look at that here in a moment. Very important here. This is an important moment just to keep an eye on. Okay, here's the ES front month futures contract. This is the S&P index and futures form. This is the true technical way to look at the broad market. Probably nothing more important to look at than this when you're trying to understand what's going on and where things are going, looking at the broad market construction in general and etc. We have not had a secret 13 sell signal, just even on the daily chart, since back in February of 2015. And that was basically the high of the year last year. Okay. So it's been a year and 2 months. We now have a 12 after today. So if one more day up at all, closing higher than today, we will be on a 13 sell signal on the broad market. The short-term target of that becomes the red line that you see down here. That's the static trend line around 1885, okay, which is a decent pullback from where we are right now. By short term, I don't mean it has to happen in 3 days like a major market meltdown. It just means that the bias should be to the downside. You'll make more money on the short side during that window, and you got to be looking for that. However, again, let's just concentrate first on the fact that we are right here, and we're actually 4 bars down on the startup phase. So the risk when you have these secret counts going, the red counts, is that they could get what's called recycled if you also get a new green startup count. We haven't even started a green startup count. So you need to find a way to get 9 days into a new startup count to the upside before you had one update. It's not possible. So we are very close here. The only way that doesn't get a signal is if we just start heading down a little bit right now and then really kind of build up some momentum to the upside for 9 days. That's very hard to imagine here. So I would think that sometime in the next, it could be tomorrow, it could be the next 3 or 4 days, we're going to get a secret 13 sell signal on the broad market. First one in over a year. Last year's was basically the high of the year and established a very flat point that came after that. We've had light volume. So this is a really important signal to be watching for. We did get it today because we moved up a bit. We're going to look at that here next. So let's go through the key stuff that we like to watch. Crude oil down 60 cents, 51. I'm sorry, it was actually up for the day. It's down right now. But 51.70, 57, 41.57. Let's go with that. Gold was up $1.40. Look at the way it now. See again, this one had a 13 sell signal back at the beginning of March, right? And the red line was not that far down, and look how it moved down to that red static trend line. So this is the same thing we'll be looking at on the broad market, which is if we get this signal, the 13 sell signal, I'll put it back up here, then the red line becomes the target, just like it did. It already worked on gold. Very interesting. S&P cash index was up 1973 for the day. Again, here's the 12 sell signal. It matches off here because the cash index is very close to the futures. In this case, they're completely in sync. You'll also note that on the cash index, we're running into that green static trend line. So a slight move up tomorrow to get the 13 sell signal against the wall of the green static trend line. I mean, that I'd say 90% of the time you're going to roll over from there when you get that lined up like that. So just be aware of that. Could be some easy money coming on the short side in the weeks ahead. NDX 37 up $37, 37 points. SOX was down less than a point. That's pretty much a non-event. Here's a look at the biotech index up 32. Not much there. The VIX actually dropped today down to 141 after being up the day before. But again, the key here is the 13 buy signal back a couple weeks ago. The VIX has started to curl up. As the VIX heads up, the market heads down. So now if we get the 13 sell signal on the broad market, this VIX could go all the way back to 28 as that green line there. That's going to take the market down with it. So a lot of things to watch. The trend, 0.61 reading for the session, takes the 10-day moving average to 0.98. Let me count the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the next day to fall off the 10-day moving average is the highest read of the last 10 days. That's that 1.5 number back 10 days ago. So, that big number dropping off, if we get another low reading tomorrow, this 10-day moving average could come down quite a bit. When the 10-day moving average of the trend drops under 0.85, that's the top of the market a lot, like 80% of the time. So again, we could get that very soon if we get a low reading on the trend tomorrow. Certainly if we get it for the next 3 days and the first 3 days drop off, So again, be very cautious here because everything is lining up towards a broad market sell signal on the VIX, on the ES, and on the trend. 1.6 billion shares on the NASDAQ. That's at least an improvement over the last 2 days, which Tuesday in particular is one of the lightest days of the year minus holiday events. 1.6 puts us back up in where we've kind of been. And, we had some decent winners today. A couple of stocks that worked. MDVN on the short side. We had a Goldman Sachs winner on the long side. We had a small GILD winner on the long side. So a few things worked. Even though volume was still fairly light, but maybe because it was more improved than the prior session. Advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ, plus 989, almost at plus 1,000. Decent breadth on the NASDAQ, up 1801, or 08, sorry, on the New York. So more stocks way up than down, or more stocks up than down by a lot on the New York and the NASDAQ. Google has not moved in weeks, up 678. That just keeps it in one of the narrowest ranges I think I can remember seeing it in for 3 weeks at a time. Apple up $1.42, also not really a move there. Amazon up 724. By the way, let's go to projection mode because there's a 13 sell signal on Amazon. What's interesting about this timing? Remember, the last 13 sell signal on Amazon was back in December, and we rolled from there. This 13 sell signal comes probably the day or so before they announce the new Kindle. So a lot of times stocks will run up. It's the buy the rumor, sell the news theory, right? Run up into a news announcement. They do have earnings coming out like a lot of people, but at the end of the day, running up into a announcement on one of their core products and then sell the news, and we're getting a 13 sell signal on it. So Amazon might be something to look at on the short side over the next couple of days. Netflix up $4.30. Okay, so having said all that, let's take a quick look at the intraday action. Take a look at what we got on Tuesday. Markets gapped up. ES pushed higher, although the NQs filled the gap early. We'll show that in a second. ES came back down just enough to fill the gap, then curled up. And there was some data on oil and some price freezing going on, trying to stabilize oil prices at a higher level. That shot the market higher, flattened out over lunch, curled up one more time, closed closer to the highs of the session. On the other hand, the NQs, like I said here, they were a little weaker early on, flat for the open. We got a 13 buy signal on the NQs. That was the low of the day right before that oil news came out. And then it didn't close as high as the ES compared to the prior day's action, but it was up for the session. All right. So what do we have on Wednesday? There's a bunch of data coming out. We've got the PPI and retail sales an hour before the bell. Remember, that's not as important as the CPI that comes out on Thursday. We've got business inventories 30 minutes in, crude oil inventories an hour in, and the Fed beige book at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So some decent news that can move things around. Wednesday, it is Wednesday of options expiration week. So the Wednesday is often when you get the options unraveling move. That would start after the first hour's play. We're going to be looking for that. I do think, like I said, coming into the week, Wednesday and Thursday had the better shot of being the better trading days. So while you should have done all right on Tuesday with our stock calls, I think Wednesday and Thursday are more promising. Friday's options expiration probably won't be very interesting. There are some earnings starting to trickle out now. Most of them are next week and the week after, but you do have to be aware of that. Make sure you be careful holding stocks in the last hour that they or stocks in their sector may have earnings coming out. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal 12. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. And we are running a special right now on our 6-month mentorship program. We're doing it as a group course, $1,000 off. We've never offered this price before. If you are interested, check in with us because we will not be offering it again. We will be signing people up by Friday, and that's it. It will not be available after that. We're starting with a group of people that want to learn over the next 6 months together, work with us in our mentoring program so that when October hits and the markets are exciting again, you're ready to go, ready to make money with the real exciting part of the market. Have a great trading day.